Hello everybody, welcome to Unit 3, Java Basics, and we got a lot of stuff to cover in this session, so let's go ahead and get started. In this section, we are going to cover your first Java program. We're also going to cover comments, naming conventions, file naming conventions that is. We'll also take a look at the main method, and this is the start to any Java program. I'll also explain braces and how to use them to logically group your program into sections. We'll also talk about how to send output from your program to the console using the system.out println method. We'll also go over how to compile your program and run it using both the command line and an integrated development environment. And we'll also cover program templates, identifiers, variables, and different styles of statements that we learned about in Unit 2 when we were discussing pseudocode. I'm also going to cover numeric data types, including all these that you see listed here. We're going to talk about constants and what they are and how to use them, and the various arithmetic operators, which you should all know and love from elementary school. We'll also talk about how to evaluate expressions and using things like the increment and decrement operators and compound assignment operators. We'll also talk about typecasting and how this is important for you to convert one data type to another. Talk about the char, escape sequences, and the difference between primitive variables and reference variables. And once you understand what reference variables are, we can discuss the string class and how you can use it to handle text within your program. And finally, we'll cover those methods that are associated with the string and how to actually get input from the user using the scanner class. Whew. So that is a lot of stuff to go over. So make yourself comfortable, grab a tasty beverage of your liking, and let's go ahead and get started. So whenever you're learning a new language, the seminal starting example is the Hello World program. It's a simple program that simply prints the text, Hello World. With this example, we'll learn a couple key things about any Java program. So let's break this program down a little bit. First, we have the program header. This is where you'll put all the information about the program so you and other developers know a little bit about the program. And you should include this header or preamble, as it's also called, with every class that you create. And they range from very basic, like what you see here, to pretty complex headers with tons of information. In this example, simply includes the name of the file, the author, and a short statement about what the program or class does. Next, you'll find the class body. And you can see here that we have a class named Hello. And this class has a single method called main. And what the main method does is it simply calls the println method and prints the hello world to the console. And that's it. Pretty simple, huh? And we looked at comments a little bit in the Hello World program. Let's talk about it a little bit more. You need to include comments in your programs in order to make them more readable or understandable. Not only for other people, but yourself as well. And I can't stress the importance of developing a good habit writing quality comments. So how do you write comments? Well, there's two different types of comments. The first is a block comment that begins with a forward slash and an asterisk, and then ends with a asterisk and a forward slash. So here you can see this is where it starts and this is where it ends. Anything between those will be regarded by the compiler as a comment and will not be compiled into the final executable. Single line comments are simply preceded by two forward slashes, as you can see here. Anything after the double slash up to the end of the line will be considered a comment. And again, comments are ignored by the compiler and will not be part of your final executable program. They just exist in the source. Pay attention to the Park University style guide for how you should write your preamble or file header, as this will be part of each assignment's grade. So, and this is critical as you develop for a company. Each company has their own style guides, and they are going to expect you to be able to follow those style guides. So this is actually a very critical thing for you to do. Your header should look like just like the Hello World example, which we've already seen. You've got the name of the class here, the source file. You've got your author's name, and you've got the space followed by the description of what the program does. And you can see here that this is a block comment because we have the starting slash and asterisk and the ending asterisk and slash. And then we also have this ending comment here that says, hey, this is the ending of the class hello. And that just makes it easy to sort out where the code starts and ends. Once you get longer programs, it becomes more and more critical to do this. I talked a little bit about the class when we're looking at Hello World, but what is a class? Well, all Java programs must be enclosed in a class. And you can think of the class as the name of the program. And it gets more in depth, but for now, we'll just go with that. The name of a Java program's file must match the name of a Java program's class. The only difference is that the file name has a .java extension added to it. So here you can see we have the hello class name right here, and here you can see that this is the file name, hello Java. Proper style dictates that the class name starts with an uppercase first letter, so this is uppercase, and since Java is case sensitive, that means the file name should also start with an uppercase first letter, and you can see that this is uppercase as well. Case sensitive means that the Java compiler does distinguish between lowercase and uppercase. When you actually compile this program, what you're going to get is you're going to get a hello.class file. And you'll see that after we compile our program. You're going to want to memorize and always use public class prior to your class name. So this part right here is how you're going to start every program. You're going to have public class and then the name of your class. Also, add an opening and closing brace to mark the start and end of the class. So for example, you can see here we have this starting brace and ending brace. But if we look at the hello class program, or hello world, you can see here we've got our starting brace and our ending brace, right? Once you have that, you need to add the main method. And this marks where your program will initially begin. And you're going to need to memorize this line because you're going to use it often. So repeat after me, public static void main string args. And we're going to break this down. You're going to learn about what all these different things mean, but we can't put the cart before the horse here, so we have to kind of crawl before we run. But public static void main, and then string args. Okay? And again, we're going to go over this, but don't forget to include the opening and closing brace for your main method right there. Okay, that's going to tell the compiler that everything that happens inside of here is part of the main method. So again, we'll cover what all of this stuff right here is. Don't worry about this. We'll get to that in a few. So we talked about the main method, but many classes will have more than one method, and certainly more than just the main method. So you can see here that we're going to start the program inside of the main method. Whenever you run the program, it's automatically going to go to this main method. That's where it's going to start. And we're going to enter the main method, and then it's going to come down here, and it's going to say print hello world. Okay, well, print here is nothing more than just another method. And you can see here that there's a difference between we got a public and we got a private. And again, we'll cover that, so don't worry about it now. But this print statement right here is going to cause the program to jump down to here. And then it's going to execute whatever's in it. So in this case, we're printing hello world. We're passing this hello world bit into the program. So wherever this message is, you're now going to substitute hello world for what that message is. We're going to cover this more in depth, but this is just kind of just to get your feet wet and start thinking about the things that you're going to have to be doing. So once it gets into there, it's going to execute this line, and it's going to print hello world. Pretty simple. So what is this string args gobbledygook right here? What is this? Well, all that is a way to pass in information to the program to allow us to set certain variables or do certain things from when the program is first run. For example, if I run this program, I can say hello CLI, and then if I wanted to print my name, I would just add Corey Willinger. Running out of space here, ... Okay, and so this program would take these strings, which are right here, and we'll talk about strings, and it's going to store them in an array. So each one of these is a separate part of that array. So for each one of these words, it's going to print it out. And so that's all this part is. It's just saying whatever comes after this program name when you run it, store it in this args variable. So let's take a look at it actually running. Okay, so let's take a look at this hello CLI program that we're going to run. As you can see here, we have the main method where it takes a array of strings as an argument, and then it's going to iterate through all those and print them out. So what does that look like in the command line? So here we have our command line, and I'm going to execute the program by clicking Java and then hello CLI, followed by some words. So if I say the dog walked down the street and then run it, you'll see that it printed out the dog walked down the street. So it did exactly what we wanted it to do. And that's how the command line interface works. It took all of these as arguments to the hello CLI program. So, and we're going to get in a little bit, we're going to show you how to compile and run more, but that was just an example of what the string args argument does. So as we've already talked about braces a little bit, let's go ahead and take a look a little bit more in depth. We use braces to group things together. And of course, braces are these little squiggly things like that. And for example, in the Hello World program, you can see the top and bottom braces group the contents of the entire class. And the interior braces group the contents of the main method. Now, Park University style guidelines dictates that we place an opening brace on a line by itself in the same column as the first character of the previous line. So you can see here we have this brace, which is the right under the P in the public class hello, and then it goes straight down to the sending brace, right? We also place a closing brace on a line by itself in the same column, which I just covered. A friend of mine once referred to this as a West Coast style because we put all of the braces on the left or west side. And you can see that sometimes we also have what's called an East Coast style where you put this brace up here on the east side of the line. So Park style guidelines dictates that we use this method where we put all of the braces on the left hand side on a line by themselves so that you can clearly see what is a part of what. So let me erase all this. So this is an example of the East Coast style. And this is what you're going to find a lot of experienced developers do just because it makes your code more concise, takes out of a lot of extra lines, but it's a little bit harder to read when you're starting off. So for now, this is the way that I want you to do it. Put braces on the left side of the program immediately under the first letter of the line in which they are grouping the content on. We use the system.out println method to send output to the display or to the user. So for an example, if we call this, if we want to print hello world, we would put whatever it is that we want to print inside the parentheses as a argument or a parameter. And then you make sure that you surround any strings with quotes. So you can see here we've got a quote and a quote. So all of this becomes one big string. And then, of course, we have to put a semicolon at the end to denote that that is the end of the line. So what is the significance of the ln in print line? Well, it just adds a carriage return or a line break to the end of whatever you are printing. Oops, yeah, we already talked about that. So in this case, if you had print hello world followed by another hello world, it would print it just like that, because we didn't add the carriage return to bring this hello world down onto a new line. So that's what this ln does right there. It adds the carriage return.